Good morning, students. Today we shall discuss about Microprocessor Introduction. This is our Unit 1. Just introduce ourselves. I am Vignesh, Assistant Professor of Computer Science, Islamia College, Autonomous. Okay, now we are going to see Introduction to Microprocessor. Go to first slide. First, what is a microprocessor? Simply we call it as a single integrated circuit, that is IC. Whereas in IC it built on Central Processing Unit, CPU. So this is our first point. Very simple definition. The next one is microprocessor is a programmable, multi-purpose, clock-driven, register-based electronic device, because the microprocessor reads binary instruction from a storage device called memory. We know that the binary instructions can only stored on memory. The stored data can accept binary data as input after processing the data according to some of the instructions, and that instructions to execute provide some useful result. The result is called output. So this is our definition of microprocessor. One more point is there. A microprocessor contains millions of components like transistors, registers, and diodes. These are all work together. Okay, next. Evaluation of microprocessors. The microprocessor can evaluate according to the generations or according to the size of microprocessors. So there are several size of microprocessors. That means 4-bit microprocessors, 8-bit microprocessors, 16-bit microprocessors, 32-bit microprocessors, 64-bit microprocessors. Each microprocessor can develop growing of its generations, like first generation, second generation, third generation, and fourth generation. Likewise, you will see next slide one by one. The first generation for most microprocessors, first generation microprocessors, it is a 4-bit microprocessors. So it is a single chip. A 4-bit microprocessor, it was a single chip. So this is a basic one. So it could perform only simple arithmetic and logical operations. So arithmetic means you know that addition, subtraction, then boolean or and boolean and. So these are all the some simple calculation we can do. in 4-bit microprocessors. So again, some of the performing in 4-bit microprocessors are control functions like fetching an instruction from storage through memory, after fetching the data, after fetching the instruction to decode it, and then generating control pulse. Control pulse means the clock pulse. After generating the clock pulse, the instruction is executed. So simply we call it as fetch, decode and execute. The three word simply. Okay, next. Examples of few 4-bit microprocessors. The first, Intel can developed or introduced in the year of 1971 to 1972. The name is called Intel 4004, then 4040. Then next, Toshiba 3472. It is also a 4-bit microprocessor. Then third one, Rockwell PPS4. So these three are 4-bit microprocessor. Okay, next. Second generation 8-bit microprocessor. So here, whereas in 4-bit microprocessor, it could perform arithmetic and logical, it could perform basic arithmetic operations. But in 8085, it is a 8-bit microprocessor. It's a second generation processors which could perform arithmetic and logical operations on 8-bit words. It was Intel 8008 and another improved version was 8088. So this is the first introduced versions in Intel. The year is 1973. Some of the examples of 8-bit microprocessors: Intel 8008, 8080, 8085. Another one, Zilog Z80. Third one is Motorola M6800, M6809. So these are all the 8-bit microprocessors. The next, third generation, we call it a 16-bit microprocessor. 16-bit microprocessors, the performance is like mini computer. Examples of few 16-bit microprocessors are Intel 8086, 80186, 80286. These are the upcoming versions. 8086 is a earlier version. After that, 80186, the next version. 80286 is another versions are upcoming versions. Next, second one, Zlog Z8000, National 16000. Then third one, Texas 9900. So these are all the some examples of 16-bit microprocessor. Go to next slide. Fourth generation, that is known as 32-bit microprocessor. Here, before first generation, second generation, third generation microprocessors, only one company, that is Intel, we introduced. But in fourth generation computers, several different companies are introduced. But in Intel, it introduced Intel 80386 was first 32-bit microprocessor. After that, the upcoming versions are 80486, 80586. The 586 is called Pentium processor, the very famous one in earlier days. The next Motorola 68020, 68030 upcoming versions. National 32032. So these are all the 32-bit microprocessors. The next fifth generation are 64-bit microprocessors. So now we are all used in 64-bit microprocessors. After 80856, the Intel introduced the year of 1995, namely Pentium processor. The name Pentium processor followed by Pentium Pro CPU. What is the importance of 64-bit microprocessor is which allows multiple CPUs in a single system to achieve multiprocessing. That is the main thing. Other improved 64-bit processors are Celeron, Dual, Quad, Octa-core. So nowadays to update 128, 256 processors. Okay, next. Basic terms used in microprocessors. There are 7 basic terms used in microprocessor. We shall discuss one by one. First, instruction set. Instruction set, that means the group of commands that the microprocessor can understood. It is called instruction set. A instruction set can interface between hardware and software. Next, bus. Bus is a set of conductor. So what is the main work of bus is to transmit data, address or control information to different element in a microprocessor. So that is the major task of bus. The next third one, IPC. Instruction per cycle. So it measures how many instructions a CPU is capable of executing in a single clock. So in 8086 there are several instructions are there. You will later on see data transfer instructions, arithmetical instruction, logical instruction, machine control instructions. So whereas in data transfer instruction, one of the data transfer instruction is move a comma, that is move register to register. So on that register with executing, or it takes some clock cycle. A 1-bit instruction will take nearly 4 clock cycles. So that will measured on IPC, instruction per cycle. Okay, next, clock speed. So it is the number of operation per second the processor can perform. So how many operations to perform, so that will calculate clock speed. So one unit is there, the clock speed is expressed on megahertz or gigahertz. Sometimes it is called clock rate of processor speed. Okay, next bandwidth, fifth one. Here the number of bits processed in a single instruction is called bandwidth. Number of bits. So there are different kind of instructions, 8-bit instructions, 16-bit instructions, that is 1 by 2 by 3 byte instruction is there. So on that time the instruction is processed every time, the bandwidth also calculated depending upon the instruction size. Okay, next word length. A 8-bit processor may process 8-bit data at a time. So that is the length of, that is a word length of 8-bit processor. For example, in 8085 it is a 8-bit processor. It can work or it can process only for 8-bit data. Similarly, in 16-bit processor, that is 8086, it processes only 16-bit data. So that is the word length of processors. Okay, next data types. Different kinds of data types can support microprocessors. One is binary, another one is ASCII, then signed and unsigned numbers. So these are all the some data types to support all the microprocessors. Hope you enjoyed. Any doubts, please contact me. Thank you.